Rita Boutet, and I'm the owner of Lake of the Woods Sunrise Soap. We make soap right here in Kenora, Ontario, which is on beautiful Lake of the Woods. Today we're going to make lavender rosemary soap. It's one of our best sellers and absolutely my favorite bar to use. Our first step is to measure the oils. We're going to use a combination of coconut oil and olive oil. Coconut oil helps to make the bar a little bit harder, and olive oil is a softer oil and it's really good for your skin. So we're going to start with that. So soap making is really a scientific process. It takes X amount of sodium hydroxide to emulsify with oils in order to make a soap. If you think of it like H2O, you have hydrogen and oxygen. They're two separate elements and they form together to form water. It's the same thing with soap making. You've got oils and sodium hydroxide. It's going to bond together to make a soap, which is actually a salt. So you get a salt and a glycerin in the end product. So in the soap making process, it's very important to measure accurately because you need so many grams of oil to saponify with so many grams of sodium hydroxide. So hence we measured everything right to the gram, and you'll see as we scrape the bowl, we scrape every last little bit out of it before we do our processing. Coconut oil gives hardness to the bar so your bar doesn't melt away, and olive oil is just a really good oil for your skin. It's been used for centuries by people to soften their skin. So basically our bar is about 30% coconut oil and about 70% olive oil. We're going to get ready to melt our oils now. So we put the coconut oil in our pot. And then we're going to put a little bit of antioxidant in our soap. This is going to help the oils last a little bit longer. Regular oils will go rancid over time. Well, that will happen in your soap too. So we like to use a little bit of rosemary extract, and we mix this with a little bit of oil and add it in, and that will help keep the soap lasting a little bit longer. And we are going to add a little bit of olive oil to mix it up. This is the same oil that will go in the batch of soap. I'm just going to put the rosemary right on top of the coconut oil and let it melt together. We're going to melt the coconut oils on the stove now. We're going to use a low heat because we don't want to burn the oils. Okay, now we're going to grind the lavender buds that are going to go right into the soap itself. We're also going to pound a few of these lavender buds, which we're going to put on top of the soap after we pour it. Just listening to make sure all the big pieces are ground up really well. And the rest of these buds will go on top of the soap, so we just pound them a little bit to open the buds up. Okay, so our next step now is to do the essential oil blend. This is a really simple essential oil blend. Some of our soaps have up to 10 essential oils in it. This one only has 2, so we have rosemary and we have the lavender. And we're just going to use our recipe and measure out the oils. The lid on. I don't like to spill these things. And rosemary. We store our essential oils in the fridge. It just keeps them fresher longer. So now we need to make sure that the oils are at least room temperature for soap making. So I'm going to run a little hot water. Okay, so we filled our cup up with nice hot water. We're going to set our bowl of essential oils on it to warm up. We want them to be at least room temperature. Okay, so our next step is to color our soap, and we're going to use an ultramarine. So this is an an ultramarine violet color. We're going to use about 6 teaspoons of that for this particular batch of soap. That's probably the most color we use for any soap. And again, we're going to strain it to get out any lumps. Okay, so now we have our ultramarine in the cup. And we need to blend it so when it goes into the soap there's no lumps or no clumps to deal with. So again, we're going to use a little bit of the olive oil from the batch of soap. And just going to use a little mini blender to blend it really well. Okay, so now the color's ready to go in. I'm just going to set that aside. So now we're going to line our soap mold. This is actually the third prototype mold that we've done. My husband makes them for me. We've been trying to get the bar to a certain size, so when we cut, we don't have a lot of waste. I think we finally have it. I think he's happy we finally have it. So when we're lining the box, it seems really tedious, but we need to make sure that there's no extra creases in. Every single crease in the paper that comes in the box shows up on the finished bar of soap. So we're going to fit this tightly into the box. And then we're going to fit this right back into the mold and anchor down the corners. And then our next step is to measure the pour line. Because we're pouring 2 trays of soap, we need to have the same pouring height for each one. So we're just going to measure that off. So we just go in and mark the pour line. And then we'll set that aside for... Okay, so earlier we had mixed up our lye. So lye is actually sodium hydroxide and water. So again, this was a specific measurement of water and sodium hydroxide. And I want to make sure that this is sitting somewhere between 90 and 102 degrees, which is ideal for soap making. So my handy dandy little thermometer tells me we're sitting at 94 degrees. So we're going to take this out of the water right now and just wait for the coconut oils to be finished. It would dry the bottom because we don't want any of this tap water to actually drip in the soap. We used distilled water when we were mixing the lye, so we don't want any of the minerals that might be in tap water in our soap. So our coconut oil is all melted and ready to go. We're going to add the olive oil next. We're going to work in the sink just in case we spill. Let's just okay, so now we're going to scrape our olive oil pail. We need to get every drop of olive oil out. And we're going to check the temperature of the oils. Make sure they're between 90 and 102 degrees. And we're good. We're sitting at 92. Okay, now comes the part where the oils become soap. So we're working with lye. Lye is very caustic. It can burn quite easily. We don't want to get it in our eye. We don't want to spill it. We don't want any on our hands. Just slowly add this to the oils. We want the molecules of lye to start bumping with the molecules of oil. Begin the saponification process. Okay, so our lye is mixed in with our oils, and now we want the molecules to start banging together to begin the saponification process. So we're going to burp this. We don't want any extra air in it. And we use a hand blender because this speeds the process up considerably. Otherwise, you'd be stirring for a couple hours. You see the oils right now. You can see it's going to get creamier and creamier as it begins to emulsify. Then right back out into the oil and lye. going to stop for a minute and add our color in at this point. And we're going to add our ground lavender and our essential oils. Okay, I'm going to just check the pH on our soap today while it's still raw. So you can see we're at the far end of the scale, around a 12, so it's still a very caustic substance. So it needs to finish the saponification process in order to get in the 7 to 8 pH range, which is neutral. Okay, so we're going to pour our soap into the molds now. And we'll just lift it up and bring it over here. Pour just up to that line that we marked. And try to make them as even as possible. Okay, we're just going to let that sit for a minute. Okay, now we're going to sprinkle a few lavender buds on the top. These are pounded lavender buds. We did this earlier. So right now the soap is about 94 degrees, maybe 96. And as it finishes the saponification process, it's going to really, really heat up. It's going to go through a phase called gel phase, where it's going to look like it's actually very clear. And then it's going to come back to its soap phase. So now we're going to cover it up and insulate it so we can retain as much heat as possible. We're going to let this sit for 24 hours. And then we're going to unmold. Okay, so it's been 24 hours and our soap is now finished. So we have 2 nice trays of soap and we are going to unmold them. So remember, little anchors that we put down. And flip it over. Take our lining paper off. Okay, now I just want to trim this little surface down here. It's got a bit of a ridge from the pour. Let's take our peeler and just go all the way around. Okay, now we're going to cut our slabs of soap into logs. Logs from each slab. Make sure that they all look nice, about the same size. That's what we want. So our logs are all cut. And now we want to cut them into bars of soap. So there we have 7 bars of soap. And this is the tray that we'll put them on. They'll have to cure for 6 weeks. What we want to happen in that 6-week time is the original water that we used in our recipe is just a carrier for the lye, and we're hoping that evaporates out. That'll result in a higher bar. Every batch of soap is numbered. It's in our soap making system. So when I'm finished, when I was done making this yesterday, we went and we put all that information in our soap software. It has a batch number, tells me when it's ready. It prices everything out, gives me all the cost and everything. So we've left space between every bar for the air to circulate. So there is our production of soap. Usually when we're done the next day, we always test the soap to check that pH level. Yesterday when we made it, the pH was up in the high end, around 13, 14. And this has been 24 hours, and so this quantification should be complete. And it looks like we're between 7 and 8, so 7.5, which is perfect for soap. So when we made our soap, and you saw me make it, we used olive oil, we used coconut oil, and we used sodium hydroxide, which then saponified the oils to make them into soap. We used lavender essential oil, rosemary essential oil, and a little bit of ultramarine to color the soap a lovely purple color. So thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy our video on soap making.